people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
De la noche, Stephanie Piñeiro.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Ryan Garcia wants Manny Pacquiao fight in December, predicts domination, Marquez-like KO. Manny Pacquiao's comeback at 46 is not a one-off. The Hall of Famer has plans on fighting for the foreseeable future following his majority decision draw against Mario Barrios on Saturday night in Las Vegas. A rematch against the WBC welterweight champion appears to be a hard pass for Team Pacquiao, which is already mentioning matchups against the likes of Rolly Romero and Gervonta Davis.
Wait, so they don't want to run it back with Mario?
Another big money matchup that can be presented to Pacquiao is a long-discussed fight against Ryan Garcia. I've been interested in fighting the legendary Manny Pacquiao for a while now, Garcia told The Ring during an extensive interview. It's something that you dream of. There were talks in the past of us fighting, and then it fell through. There is a history there. I'm always up for a challenge. I would be lying if I said I'm not interested. If Manny wants to throw down, let's do it. Garcia, who lost his last fight to Rolly Romero on May 2nd, is confident he will provide a much tougher test for Pacquiao than Barrios.
Ryan is another bum.
I'm a much different fighter than Barrios, and styles make fights, Garcia said. Barrios is not a big name, but Manny believed that he could beat Barrios, and that's why he took the fight. Manny's style fits perfectly into my style. I'm an extremely good counterpuncher. Pacquiao knows that, and that's why most of the time he doesn't mention me as a guy he would want to fight. He lunges in a lot, and he knows I have that quick left hook.
It's not quick enough for Rolly Romero, huh?
He's been successful with his style, but there are chances for mistakes, and for me to connect when he comes in, I know that I would present a lot of problems for Pacquiao. I would dominate him. I would capitalize on Manny's mistakes better than other guys. I would knock him out like Juan Manuel Marquez. All due respect to the legend Manny, though. Sean Gibbons, the chief operating officer of Manny Pacquiao Promotions and the Filipino fighter's right-hand man as of 2018, said he'd like for Pacquiao to fight by his 47th birthday on December 17th. Garcia, 24-2 with 20 knockouts and 1 no contest, who turns 27 in 2 weeks, and Pacquiao, 62-8 with 3 draws and 39 knockouts, have been linked to a potential matchup on and off for over 4 years, including both a professional fight in 2021 and an exhibition in Japan last year. Pacquiao had previously mentioned Garcia would be on the shortlist for a comeback before he officially made the move against Barrios, while Pacquiao tries to wash away the lukewarm taste of a draw against Barrios. Garcia looks to do the same following a unanimous decision defeat to Romero. Garcia was knocked down in the fight and later admitted he had hand problems. He also noted a lack of atmosphere during the intimate outdoor event in the middle of New York's Times Square, zapped his zest.
Well, it didn't zap Rolly's. The lack of atmosphere didn't bother him, so how is that an excuse for you?
Garcia underwent hand surgery in late May for a second time. He had his first hand surgery in October of 2021. I'm looking for and shooting for a fight In December, said Garcia, I want to fight in Vegas in front of a big crowd. I want to feed off the crowd and get back in my element. I want to masturbate to Sydney Sweeney for 8 hours a day. I'm already in training, lifting weights and lightly hitting the pads. I am sure I'll be able to go full throttle over the next few weeks. I've been recovering faster with this right hand surgery than with my previous right hand surgery, and this latest one required more surgical work. It's a good sign so far. It's good news. If Manny Pacquiao does want to fight me and make big money in a huge fight, then let's do it. If not, that's okay with me. I can fight Rolly in a rematch.
This is what I said would happen upon Manny Pacquiao's return. That every underachiever at or around welterweight is going to make it their mission to box Manny for no other reason than he's 46, going on 47 years old. And to them, that makes him low-hanging fruit. Now, how they package it...
Oh, well, it's a dream. He's a legend.
He just drew with Mario Barrios. The kind of guy that he would have chewed up and spat out in his prime, he just fought to a draw.
Let us talk about Manny Pacquiao. Look, we got to be honest here. When we heard about him getting ranked, when we heard about him getting the title shot 46, his last fight was 4 years ago. Considering how he looked in his last fight, I think we were all concerned. We didn't like it. We have to say, while those feelings all may have been real and authentic and valid, he looked fantastic on Saturday. I mean, he turned the clock all the way back. He looked amazing, and I thought he was going to win. And it ended up being a draw. And Mario Barrios now has the dubious distinction of having 2 draws in a row as champion. But they got to run this one back, no doubt about it. And I wonder now if they go to a bigger venue. I love the MGM Grand, but this is now must-see TV. And I could tell you from our side of things, over at Uncrown, the only unbiased platform and site outlet that covers combat sports, the traffic for Manny Pacquiao on Saturday was through the roof. It was Tyson Paul levels. There's still great interest and love in this guy, and I was thoroughly impressed in what he did on Saturday.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to change my opinion of whether the fight should have happened. I still believe it shouldn't, but I have to eat a bit of humble pie. I didn't expect Manny Pacquiao to look that good. I remember covering his exhibition fight, and I remember thinking, okay, he's done. Like this version of the guy that kind of entertained me at 5 a.m. For so many years is no longer. And I saw a version of that guy still in the early hours of Sunday morning. He won that fight. He won that fight by a couple of rounds. In my head, I'm like, is Barrios that bad? Or is Manny Pacquiao still quite good? And I guess it's a bit of both. Because Barrios really, and I hate to be critical of Barrios because, you know, when I see him, I show him love, but you should be beating Manny Pacquiao. You should be beating a guy who's not been peak Manny Pacquiao for a decade, maybe longer. So I don't know what it says about Mario Barrios, if I'm honest with you. Again, as you say, it's coming off 2 draws. He didn't look great. So they do have to run it back. I think Pacquiao was robbed on the scorecards, which doesn't normally happen when you are the quote-unquote bigger name, the bigger star. So I think they're going to run it back. Now, there was a part of me that was like, go on, Manny, win so we can get a Floyd fight, which would break every single record Netflix has, maybe even Jake Paul, Mike Tyson. But in the end, I think Manny Pacquiao deserves another go.
You know, I generally like Ade Oladipo and Ariel Helwani, but I think they're being a bit wide-eyed here. I do think they're being a bit naive. They're not as cynical as I am in their evaluation of that fight, because I'm going to come right out and say it where they won't. That fight looked fixed. It looked like Mario was pulling his punches and wasn't really trying. Let the old guy have some success because we want to use him later and we want to use you.
So if you're basing whether or not Manny Pacquiao still has it on a fight that I think was fixed,
that must mean that Manny Pacquiao doesn't have it, because when Manny was Manny, you wouldn't need to fix a fight with a Mario Barrios. You would unleash Manny Pacquiao on a Mario Barrios.
Now let's just say, for argument's sake, that the fight wasn't fixed and what we all saw was legit. It still means the same thing. Manny is not who he was if he's drawing with a C-class fighter like Mario Barrios.
I don't consider myself a member of the media. I am merely a boxing fan with a boxing channel where we discuss boxing, and I don't have any professional relationships to maintain like either Ariel Helwani or Ade Oladipo. So I can be completely honest when I say that Mario is a C-class fighter.
And Manny Pacquiao is over the hill. He's doing all the signature Manny Pacquiao moves at half speed. He's not as fast, not as explosive as he used to be, because if he were, he would have knocked out Mario.
Ryan is a C-class fighter too. Oh yes he is, he's just very popular. And that's how he's managed to finagle these big paydays, these big fights. Not because of his big boxing ability, but because of his big Instagram following. That was always what catapulted him to the forefront of several conversations.
Of course, an underachiever like a Ryan Garcia, who's still coming off a loss to Rolly Romero, wants to sign up to fight a 46 going on 47-year-old Manny Pacquiao.
Of course!
He's not likely to get invited back to Riyadh Season or a Ring Magazine card based on the stinker that he put on.
This has to be, by and large, the worst welterweight division I've ever seen. And so many people bitch and moan about who Jake Paul is fighting, what Jake Paul is doing, when this is what should get them upset, that a reigning world champion chose to fight Manny Pacquiao at 46 years old, having not boxed in 4 years, and that world champion couldn't even beat him.
It's ridiculous.
These are the guys that you're supposed to hold to some kind of standard, what are intended to be the esteemed professionals in the sport of boxing, not social media influencers who moonlight as boxers, but actual boxers. This is what you want to do.
And I don't see the outrage. I don't see the pearl clutching that I often see whenever Jake Paul does something.
So I'm just going to say that as a long-time consumer of boxing and boxing content, I have absolutely no interest in seeing Manny Pacquiao fight on. I don't care for a Barrios rematch. I don't care for a Ryan Garcia fight.
I don't care for any of that shit.
In men's light heavyweight news, IBA president Umar Kremlev took to his social media and posted a video of himself FaceTiming Artur Beterbiev, saying, "Are you looking forward to the fight in Russia? Will Beterbiev versus Bivol happen at all? Who do you think will win? Everything is in place. We just need the boxers to agree."
Good friend of the channel, Isan with the Nissan, made a stout observation saying, wait a minute, Beterbiev made it seem like he had no idea about what's going on with the trilogy after news broke of the fight being moved to Russia, and said that Bivol was delaying it. Looks like that was a lie then.
A stout observation, and that's not the first time that's happened. That's not the first time that Artur Beterbiev tried to make it seem like Dmitry Bivol was the one sandbagging it, when I remember his promoter being the one that poured cold water on the fight 2 or 3 years ago, saying that Bivol was boring, so he didn't want to do it.
Talking about Bob Arum, talking about Top Rank. Thankfully, the fight happened, the 2 fights happened. Now we're in store for a third.
And this is what I always thought. As soon as I heard that the fight was being moved from Riyadh Season in Saudi Arabia over to Russia, I knew that the IBA were likely the ones behind it, that the IBA are likely the ones that are going to finance the fight, because since they've been stripped of recognition by the IOC,
since they're not overseeing amateur boxing anymore, they've thrown their hat into the paid ranks, and they are tantamount to a promotional outfit now that stages its own shows, its own pro fights.
Questions that need answers. If the IBA are the ones at the helm of the promotion, how do the people in America watch this fight? Who's going to be the broadcast partner for Beterbiev versus Bivol III, since Riyadh Season and Sella are no longer behind it? And does the fight happening in Russia favor Artur more than it favors Dmitry?
I understand that they're both Russian nationals, Artur and Dmitry.
But maybe they like one more than the other. And in Russia, maybe they're a lot more laxed when it comes to their anti-doping protocols, their anti-doping testing.
So you think that Artur is doping?
No, I think that everybody's doping. I'm not just pigeonholing him. I ain't got no hair on my tongue. I don't think that anti-doping protocols are as stringent in Russia as they might be in some other part of the world, and that might allow Artur to use some of his secret sauce.
You think that he finds the fountain of youth in his next fight? in the Bivol trilogy?
I think that people need to open their eyes as to what's really going on behind the curtain in boxing. And at minimum, I think it is something we all need to consider, that where the fight happens may affect who wins the fight. In men's heavyweight news, Alexander Usyk is being allowed breathing space by the World Boxing Council. WBC President Mauricio Suleiman has confirmed that the sanctioning body will not impose a mandatory obligation on the undisputed heavyweight champion Alexander Usyk in the immediate future, a position that will be reviewed again in December. The WBC is maintaining a position of trying, if at all possible, to keep an undisputed heavyweight champion. Suleiman told Boxing News in the wake of Usyk's successful defense of his WBC title against Daniel Dubois on Saturday night. That victory also ensured the Ukrainian regained the IBF title from the Briton, as well as maintaining his grip on both the WBO and WBA Super Crowns. The WBC have approved a series of fights, and that's why we ordered an interim fight between Agit Kabayel and Zhilei Zhang in February. To maintain activity in the division so things are not frozen, we will address this matter again at the WBC convention, which will take place in the first week of December. So what that essentially means is you cannot expect the WBC to order the fight between Usyk and Agit Kabayel anytime this year. And a few weeks ago, I heard rumblings of Agit making a hometown defense of his interim title against an opponent that has yet to be announced. We talked about that here on the channel.
About Agit's potential homecoming fight, this allows Usyk the wiggle room to satisfy his WBO mandatory challenger with no consequence, without losing any of his titles. The issue there is that Riyadh Season and Sella don't want to pay for it.
I'm actually okay with the WBC's decision to give Usyk some breathing space. I only wonder why they didn't extend that same courtesy to Dmitry Bivol shortly after he became undisputed champion. Right after he became undisputed champion, they ordered the fight between him and David Benavidez, knowing they were not next in the rotation. David was not the next mandatory that needed to be satisfied, but they ordered it anyway. So why are they giving Usyk this amnesty and not Dmitry?
Could be one of two things. When the conflict between Russia and Ukraine started, the World Boxing Council took a side, and it didn't take them long. They made a decision to not rank any Russian fighters.
You'd think they have a bias against Russians.
And remember, they went as far as saying that they would not sanction a fight between Dmitry and Artur because Dmitry's a Russian national.
Wasn't Artur a Russian national?
Yes, but he's also a citizen of Canada, and he has been for some years now. Essentially, the reason they gave Usyk amnesty and not Dmitry is probably because they have a bias against Russians.
That's one reason. Another could be the backlash they faced after they stripped Dmitry Bivol of the WBC title. It was an unpopular decision. A lot of people let them have it for it.
Got the WBC and Mauricio Suleiman a lot of bad press. So maybe the reason they're not doing the same thing to Usyk is they don't want to go through that again.
In short, one reason might be that they have a bias against Russians, but they're okay with Ukrainians. And another reason might be they don't want to make another unpopular decision, make another unpopular mandate. Could be one reason, could be both.
But it's very clear that the WBC is sometimed with these mandates. There's no consistency.
In any event, I'm glad that Usyk is not facing undue pressure from them. If anybody deserves time to breathe and wiggle room, it's that guy.
No mandatory due via the WBC. I don't think there's one due via the IBF.
I remember the IBF ordering a fight between Filip Hrgovic and Frankie Sanchez to crown the next mandatory challenger, and that fight hasn't even been made yet.
And the WBA?
I don't know of any order or any mandatory via the WBA, so Usyk should be all right.